Well, hello world, welcome. My name is Luann Pygott. You are here in my apartment, and I am going to talk to you today, read some Bible verses, and play some music for you, and I hope you will be blessed by this today. So my topic that I am calling today, I came across this idea, and I am calling this Freedom in Prison. And the reason that I came up with this subject is I've got to thinking about, there's several things in the Bible about this, that often we have been set free. God has set us free from whatever bondage we're in, but sometimes we're still in the bondage. Even though we may have been actually set free, but we are still keeping ourselves in bondage. We are free, but we are not walking out of it. So let me read this Bible verse to you. This is our Bible verses. This is from Acts 16:25 through 28. But at midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. They were in prison. They had been in prison for talking about Jesus. So they had been put in prison, but what were they doing? Were they moaning and groaning? No. They were at midnight. Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. No matter what kind of a bondage they were in, they were still ministering to people. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened and everyone's chains were loosed, and the keeper of the prison, awaking from sleep and seeing the prison doors open, supposing the prisoners had fled. Well, wouldn't you think that? If you were keeping a prison but you were sleeping, and then you felt an earthquake and you woke up and you looked and all the prison doors are open, you're like, oh man, they're gone. Because this says it not only opened the doors, it shook their chains loose. Because they were like shackled into this prison. That's quite an amazing earthquake, wasn't it? It broke them free from the chains too. So they had no chains and the doors were open. What would you do if you were in prison and the doors all open and your chains came off? Run? Run. Wouldn't you think so? This says the keeper of the prison, he thought they all had fled, so he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, because if he had let all those prisoners escape, the Roman government was going to kill him, probably in a very horrific way, and he thought, I'll just end it now real quick and easy. So he was going to kill himself with a sword. But Paul called, listen to this amazing statement. Paul called with a loud voice saying, do yourself no harm, for we are all here. Why were they there? Now, I'm not talking about Paul and Silas. Paul and Silas may have been told by God to stay there, or just thought, well, God hadn't told us what to do yet. Paul and Silas were probably the only innocent people in that prison, though. This was filled with prisoners, criminals. Why were they still there? Why were they still there? They had just been set free. And you say, well, they're worried about the jailer. Oh, they could have gone and woken him up and taken him with them. Why were they still there? God opened all the doors and removed their chains. They were free. God had set them free. They had freedom. They didn't even leave the prison. They're just sitting there. Why are you just sitting there? God has said, you're free. He has set you free from any bondage you've been in. If he has set you free, why are you still sitting there? Why are you still acting like you're in prison? You are still in prison, but who is keeping you in the prison now? It's not the doors. It's not the chains. Who's keeping you in prison? It wasn't the prison guard. He was asleep. Who's keeping you in prison? You. You are keeping you in prison. You got to get out. Move and get out of the prison. You have been set free. Don't keep sitting there in prison. You are keeping you in prison. Get out of the prison. I know that they wanted probably to save that jailer, but it says later that he took them. The jailer took them out to his house. They got out anyway. Apparently he wasn't all that concerned about dying at that point. And then later, the order came to set Paul and Silas free, so they were going to get out anyway. And God set him out earlier, so he could save the jailer. But particularly everybody else that was there, that weren't there to save the jailer, all the other prisoners, why'd they sit there? They were used to being in prison. They were like, this can't be real. This can't be real. I can't be being set free. God didn't just set free Paul and Paul and Silas. Isn't that interesting? He didn't just set Paul and Silas free. He set all the criminals free too. That's astounding to me. He doesn't want anybody in prison. He wants you to set free. And I don't mean just that physical prison. I mean a prison that we put ourselves in. He's like, doors open, chains off, go. Did they go? No. They sat there. They're like, what do? I don't know how to be free. We don't know how to be free. We got to learn how to be free. And the first thing is, walk out of the prison. Nothing keeping you there anymore but you. Because if you belong to God, He has set you free. If you don't belong to God, that's your first step. Belong to God. Go to God. Say, I want to belong to you. Then you've been set free. You just got to get out. Just get out of it. Then I'm going to read to you from Acts 12, 5 through 10. Peter, this is another episode of prison. Another person, Peter. Peter was therefore kept in prison, but constant prayer was offered to God for him by the church. This shows how effective prayer is. And when Herod was about to bring him out that night, Peter was sleeping. See how much of peace he was? Yeah, going to sleep. God's taking care of me. He was bound with 2 chains between 2 soldiers. And the guards before the door were keeping the prison. So there were 2 chains, one on each side of him, and they were chained to him. They didn't want him to get out, didn't they? A guard on either side, and y'all got to go to the prison too. Why do we have to sit in this prison? Because you got to be chained to this guy. And then there were also guards at the door. Maybe they knew about the Paul and Silas and so on, and they didn't want that to happen again. No, actually, this is written about sooner. They were worried, though. And the guards before the door were keeping the prison, and behold, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared, and a light shone in the cell, and he struck Peter's side and woke him up. That just tells you how much Peter was relaxed and sleeping. The angel had to go to him and like, wake up, Peter. It says he struck his side and woke him up, saying, get up quickly, and his chains fell off his hands. Okay, what was happening to the people he was chained to? Did they see the angel? Maybe they were petrified. Maybe they slept through it. Well, that'd be something to sleep through, wouldn't it? The chains fell off. Again, this is what God does to us. Chains. You're in chains, they can fall off. God will let them fall off, but sometimes we're just still sitting in the prison. Just like Paul and Silas. Their chains fell off, and they just sat there. All the prisoners in there with Paul and Silas, their chains fell off. The doors opened, and they just sat there in that prison. They didn't know how to be free. They wanted to be free, I think, but they were like, what do we do? Go out the door. Walk out of that prison. So he says to Peter, get up quickly, and his chains fell off his hands, and the angel said to him, gird yourself and put on your sandals. So he's doing all this, put stuff around your waist, put stuff, even those other guards, what are they doing? I don't know. And he did so, and he said to him, wrap your cloak around you and follow me. And he went out and continued to follow, and he did not know that what was being done was by the angel was real. So he didn't think it was real. He was just doing what he was told. He thought he was seeing a vision. He just thought it was in his head. Like, this isn't really happening. This isn't really happening. But see, chains fell off of him. The chains fell off. Did he leave? No. It was an angel right there. Did he leave? No. He sat there. The angel said, gird your waist, put on your shoes, put on your coat, come with me. You would thought once them chains fell off, he'd have been like, chow! That's not what we do. Our chains fall off of us. God has said, I've set you free. And we sit here like, I don't feel free. I don't look free. I'm still in a prison. But you are free. You just got to walk out. It says, and he went out and continued to follow, and he did not know that what was being done by the angel was real. He thought he was seeing a vision. When they had passed the first and second guard, they must have been sleeping. Or just, he made them not seen. When they had passed the first and second guard, they came to the iron gate that leads to the city, which opened for them by itself. Wow, can you imagine that? God doesn't need help. He set you free without help. But you got to walk through the gate. What if he had opened that gate? And he just stood there like, I don't know what to do. You got to walk through the gate. You got to have some boldness. You got to have some bravery. You got to say, look, God just opened his door. God just opened the door for me. He just dropped the chains off of me. I got to walk through that door. You don't keep sitting in prison. If you keep sitting in prison, you might as well just still be in prison. You're still imprisoned even though you're actually free. You're free in prison. Don't be free in prison. Be free and get out of prison. And they went out and went along one street, and immediately the angel departed from him. So he actually had to lead him out. Put on your clothes. Put on your shoes. Put on your coat. Follow me. He had to follow the angel. Like, he didn't do it by himself. He had to have some help out. Psalm 68:6, God makes a home for the lonely. I'm waiting for that home. He makes a home for the lonely. He leads out the prisoners into prosperity. He leads them out. If you feel like you're stuck, God will lead you out. But you got to be like, okay, come lead me out. I'm ready to get out. I know you set me free, but I'm sitting here still like I'm bound. That's what we do. God sets us free. We sit there like we are still bound because we don't know what to do. Get up and walk out. John 11:41 and 44. And Jesus lifted his eyes and said, Father, this is when Lazarus was raised from the dead. So Lazarus, his friend, had died, had been dead for 3 days. And when he prayed for Lazarus, this is what Jesus said. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. Isn't that a beautiful prayer? Isn't that a beautiful thought? God, I thank you that you've heard me. Nothing had changed. Jesus said, I know you've heard me. Nothing happened yet. I know you've heard me. You can say, God, I know you've heard me, even nothing's happened. Nothing's changed. Nothing's going on. You say, God, my Father, I thank you that you heard me. Because no matter when you speak, he hears you. If you are his child, he hears you. But because of the people who are, it says, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. That's something Jesus said. Father, I thank you that you heard me and you always hear me. There's never a time he doesn't hear you. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this. In other words, he's saying, I'm saying this so the other people here know, God, you hear me and you always hear me. That they may believe that you sent me. He was wanting people to know I came from the Father. God sent me. God sent me. So he talked to God. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out bound, hand and foot, with grave clothes. You know, you can be set free. He came out of the grave, but he wasn't really free. He wasn't completely free. He was still bound. You know, you can be set free and still living in some bondage. You can be set free. He was raised from the dead. He was freed from the grave, but he was still wrapped in those old grave clothes. He was still bound. He couldn't even walk. He probably had to hop. He couldn't get out of them himself. He needed some help. And he says, he came out bound, hand and foot, with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. You think, how do you even breathe? God helped him until he got that off. Jesus said to them, loose him and let him go. You notice he didn't just say loose him? I never caught that till just a second. He didn't just say take it off. He said loose him and let him go. God has loosed us. But now you got to go. He has loosed you from the bondage that you have been in if you have asked him to and you're his child. Now you got to go. You don't just sit there. He didn't go sit in a grave. He had to have all of that bondage taken off of him. They said, let him go. So then he goed. Psalm 102:19 and 20 says, from heaven the Lord viewed the earth to hear the groaning of the prisoner. It's who he hears. He hears us groaning. To set free those who were doomed to death. That's why he sent his son. That's why he's to set us free. Psalm 119:34, I will walk about in freedom. Notice it doesn't say I will sit in my prison in freedom. We don't sit in our freedom in prison because you know why? You're not really in freedom. You're just still sitting in it. You're still sitting in your bondage. You've been freed from it. You're still sitting there. You got to walk away from it. I will walk about in freedom, for I have sought out your precepts. I'm going to sing a song real quick. It's called I'm Glad He Lifted Me Out. He's lifted us out of the bondage we were in. But don't just sit there, because you're going to feel like you're still in the bondage. You got to find, maybe you need some help. Maybe you need to pray, God help me, show me what to do next. Maybe you need some sort of support from friends and people who've been through what you've been through. That's where, that's what I get a lot on the new app I joined, Toxic Abuse Anonymous, the community. We get support. We support each other. We help each other. And the people there are helping. It can help free you from some bondage you have been in. Come and join it and see. But you've got to do something. You can't just sit and say, I don't feel free. I don't look free. I don't sound free. You've actually been free. You got to just start walking to be free, because he's lifted you out. I'll never forget stumbled on sin's broad road, far away from the path, abode and beneath my heavy load. But now I can shout, for Jesus the Savior came. When I called on his precious name, he took all my sin and shame, and he lifted me out. He lifted me out of the deep miry clay. He planted my feet on the heavenly way. I'll tell it where'er I go, for I want the whole world to know. I'm glad that he loved me so, that he lifted me out. If you are away from God, on the pathway of sin you trod, let him be your staff and rod, and turn you about. From sin he will set you free, and the pathway of life you'll see. That just like he did for me, he will lift you right out. He lifted me out of the deep miry clay. He planted my feet on the heavenly way. I'll tell it where'er I go, that I want the whole world to know. I'm glad that he loved me so, that he lifted me out. Psalm 107:13-16 says, Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble. This is what the Israelites did. They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distresses. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and broke their bands apart. See, he isn't just opening doors, he's breaking your chains. But notice it says he brought them out. You don't stay in that spot, because you're still in bondage. You're still in prison. Even though it all fell off of you, you don't stay in that place of prison. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he has broken the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron in two. Whatever is binding you, whatever has been binding you, whatever bondage you've been in, he has cut it. He has broken it. It is no longer has power over you. But don't sit there in those ruins of that stuff that broke you and that was binding you. Step out. Isaiah 61:1. I love this. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. I really feel this is what God is using me for right now. He's anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor, and he has sent me. He is sending me to bind up the brokenhearted and to proclaim freedom for the captives. If you are captives, I am a captive. You are in captivity. I'm proclaiming freedom to you. There is freedom, but freedom isn't just the doors opening and your chains falling off. You're still there. Freedom is walking out of that. Walk out of the prison. Just because the doors are open, just because your chains are no longer on your wrists or your ankles, you're still sitting there. You're going to feel just like you're still bound. Walk out of the prison that's been holding you. To proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoner. Whatever's been binding you. If it's trauma from a past relationship or any kind of relationship, whether it's a spouse or your parents, any kind of thing that has been binding you, or if it's anything else, walk out of it. If you need some support, go to the link in my bio, click on Toxic Abuse Anonymous app, go check it out for 99 cents. It's almost nothing. See if it's somewhere you want to stay. If not, then you can leave. Come and see the support you can get there. But first, let God set you free. And when he sets you free, don't sit there. Walk out. Have a good week. Until next time. Good night.